At its peak, Victoria's Secret didn't just sell lingerie. It sold a fantasy, and America bought it by the billions. For nearly 3 decades, they owned the market. They defined beauty, and nobody pushed back. But the man who built it sold it before it became an empire. And the man who turned it into a billion-dollar dynasty, he'd become one of the most controversial figures in American business history. So how does a brand with a third of the lingerie market end up closing hundreds of stores and watching competitors eat it alive? The answer involves greed, outdated beauty standards, and one of the darkest scandals in corporate history. This is the full story. The year is 1977. Roy Raymond is a young Stanford MBA graduate standing inside a department store trying to buy lingerie for his wife, and he is mortified. The fluorescent lighting, the beige everything, the saleswomen staring at him like he'd walked into the wrong building. It was clinical, uncomfortable, the opposite of romantic. Roy walked out empty-handed and with an idea. He wanted to create a store where a man could walk in and feel like he was stepping into a woman's boudoir, something intimate, something European, something that felt like a secret. He named it Victoria's Secret, a nod to the elegance of the Victorian era. In 1977, he opened his first store in Stanford Shopping Center in Palo Alto, California, and launched a mail order catalog to go with it. Within a few years, Roy had 5 stores and was pulling in around $6 million a year. Not bad, but not great either. Because Roy Raymond, despite his brilliant idea, wasn't a businessman at scale. He was a dreamer, and dreams without capital behind them have a shelf life. By 1982, Roy was drowning in debt. So he did the only thing he could. He sold Victoria's Secret for $1 million. He thought he was cutting his losses. He had no idea he just handed someone else the keys to a gold mine. That someone was Les Wexner. Les Wexner wasn't a romantic. He was a retailer, a cold, calculating, visionary retailer, and arguably one of the greatest brand architects America has ever seen. Wexner already owned The Limited, a massively successful clothing chain. When he saw Victoria's Secret, he didn't see a struggling boutique. He saw a sleeping giant. He immediately reframed everything. Instead of marketing to men buying gifts for women, Wexner flipped it. Victoria's Secret would be for women. It would be about female desire, female aspiration, female fantasy. The woman wasn't the gift. She was the one being celebrated. He expanded the catalog into a cultural event. He opened stores in malls across America. He hired models that looked like they'd stepped off a European runway. He filled the stores with silk and satin and the smell of perfume. The experience was the product, and it worked spectacularly. Through the late 1980s and into the 1990s, Victoria's Secret grew at a pace that made competitors dizzy. By 1995, it was already a dominant force in American retail. But the real rocket fuel? That came in 1995 when the brand launched something that would permanently change pop culture, the Victoria's Secret fashion show. Imagine a world before social media, before Instagram, before TikTok, before you could stream anything on demand. Now imagine that in this world, a television event stops the entire country. That's what the Victoria's Secret fashion show became. When it moved to CBS in 2001, it drew 10 million viewers. By 2012, it peaked at nearly 12 million, one of the most watched entertainment events on American television. Not news, not sports, a lingerie runway show. The Angels became household names. Tyra Banks, Heidi Klum, Gisele Bündchen, Adriana Lima. These weren't just models. They were icons. Their faces were everywhere. Their bodies became the benchmark. A generation of women grew up believing that this was the standard of beautiful. The brand launched fragrances, swimwear, loungewear, the pink line targeting college women. It seemed like there was nothing Victoria's Secret couldn't touch. At its absolute peak, the brand controlled roughly 35% of the entire American lingerie market. In a country of hundreds of millions of women, one brand had a third of the market. That is almost unheard of in retail. So what made Victoria's Secret actually work? Because this wasn't just pretty models and nice stores. There was a machine underneath. The catalog was a masterpiece of direct marketing, landing in mailboxes at a time when that was the most intimate advertising channel available. It felt personal, special, like it was meant for you. The in-store experience was engineered down to the millimeter. The lighting, the scent, the music, the layout, all of it designed to make you feel something. Studies show that ambient scent alone can increase purchase intent. Victoria's Secret built a whole empire on that principle. The pink line was pure genius. Capture women in college, build the habit young, and they stay loyal for life. It was a feeder system for the main brand. And the angels? They weren't just beautiful. They were aspirational in a very specific, very controlled way. Thin but curvy in exactly the right places. Tall but not intimidating. Diverse enough to feel inclusive, but not so diverse that it challenged the core aesthetic. The whole system was built to sell a very particular vision of beauty. And for a while, that vision was what the market wanted. But then the market changed. And Victoria's Secret didn't. It's around 2016 that things start going wrong, quietly at first, then very loudly. The American woman is changing her relationship with her own body. The body positivity movement is gaining mainstream momentum. Women are buying comfort. Bralettes are outselling underwire. Athleisure is exploding. The idea that women need to look a certain way to feel beautiful is being actively dismantled online every single day. And Victoria's Secret? They're still running the same playbook from 1995. Meanwhile, competitors smell blood. Aerie, the lingerie brand from American Eagle, launches a campaign with zero retouching on their models. No Photoshop. Bodies with stretch marks, scars, and different shapes. Women go wild for it. Aerie's sales surge year after year. They become the brand that stands for what Victoria's Secret refuses to. Then comes Savage x Fenty. Rihanna's brand launches in 2018 and does everything differently. Sizes from XS to 4X. A fashion show that features models of every body type, every skin tone, every gender expression. It's not just a product launch, it's a cultural statement, and it lands like a thunderclap. Victoria's Secret fashion show viewership is falling off a cliff from 12 million viewers in 2012 to 5 million by 2018. The show that once was the conversation is now being talked about for all the wrong reasons. And then the controversies hit, not the slow kind, the explosive kind. This is the part of the story where everything starts falling apart at once. In 2018, the brand's chief marketing officer, Ed Razek, gives an interview to Vogue magazine, and what he says is breathtaking in its tone deafness. When asked why the fashion show doesn't feature plus-size or transgender models, Razek says the show is a fantasy and that he doesn't think it's the right fantasy for these models to be part of. He says essentially that some women aren't part of the story they want to tell. The backlash is immediate, volcanic, and completely justified. In one interview, the face of Victoria's Secret marketing manages to alienate a massive portion of their customer base while the entire world is watching. Razek eventually apologizes, but the damage is done. The mask has slipped. The brand that claimed to celebrate women has just admitted out loud that it only celebrates certain women. But that wasn't even the worst of it, because then comes the Jeffrey Epstein connection. Les Wexner, the man who built Victoria's Secret, who still ran it, had a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein that spanned decades. Epstein had served as Wexner's financial manager and had been given extraordinary access to his life, his finances, and reportedly his name. Reports surfaced that Epstein had used his association with Victoria's Secret to approach young women, falsely implying they could be recruited as models. The brand's prestige was allegedly weaponized as a grooming tool. Wexner eventually claimed he had been defrauded by Epstein and cut ties. But the questions didn't go away. How much did he know? How long did this go on? The answers were murky. The association was damaging, and the trust that women had placed in this brand felt, to many, deeply betrayed. In November 2019, Victoria's Secret cancels the fashion show. No broadcast deal, no runway, no angels, gone. The company calls it an evolution. Nobody buys it. Everyone knows what it really is, a brand in free fall, trying to stop the bleeding. The numbers are brutal. Over 250 store closures between 2015 and 2020. The catalog, discontinued in 2016. Market share evaporating. Women simply stopped showing up. In 2020, Les Wexner steps down as CEO. An era ends. Not with a bow, but with a quiet exit through the back door. By 2021, a new Victoria's Secret goes public. New leadership, New mission, a hard pivot toward inclusivity. They launched the VS Collective, athletes, activists, diverse models, transgender model Valentina Sampaio, Megan Rapinoe, a complete 180 from 5 years earlier. But consumers have long memories, and competitors haven't been standing still. Savage x Fenty keeps growing. Aerie keeps winning. Brands that stood for inclusivity from day one, without the baggage. Being authentic from the start is very different from pivoting, because you got caught on the wrong side of history. Some changes felt real. Some felt like a costume. The jury's still out. Victoria's Secret shows you something uncomfortable about success. It can become a cage. Build an empire on one vision, one look, one fantasy, and you become trapped by it. The more successful you are, the harder change becomes. And when the world moves on, the thing that made you great becomes the anchor pulling you under. What happened here wasn't just a corporate failure. It was a cultural verdict. When you build a business telling people who they should be, you'd better be ready for the day they decide to just be themselves. Can a brand this damaged ever really come back? Drop your thoughts below. And if this story hit different, subscribe. There are plenty more where this came from.